Finally, tonight I'm getting to record a video of something that works for shutting down ESXi and all the virtual machines gracefully, smoothly, automatically when power is lost in a home or a lab, say. So when we have a commodity, reasonably affordable price, like this CyberPower series of PFC compatible UPSs, they have a USB signal cable. So these are not the enterprise high-end with Ethernet interface. These are the modestly priced devices that are compatible with my particular type of power supply that I chose over a year ago. Okay, so I chose the UPS, and the one I have attached, I believe, is the 1500 right here. So this has a signal cable, USB cable, going to my Vzilla host, my VMware workload host. It's a Core i7, an ASRock motherboard. What I want to do is when the power goes out, the UPS signals to VMware to shut down. And the way it's going to do that is by far the most simple way I've found. I struggled with this for a long time, well over a year. We've got scripting approaches, the VMA, the vSphere Management Assistant, which could be okay, but again requires a bit of a learning curve. And then scripting also can require something other than the free hypervisor. And I started to, this is an article I never published over a year ago on what to choose. And then finally, VMA has its own issues with firewall and so forth. So the easiest approach, turns out, is right here. CyberPower's website, Power Panel Business Edition, and a new download right here, VMware vSphere. What they're talking about is this is an appliance. It's Linux-based CentOS, and it is pre-configured to just work. So you're going to see this is pretty easy. If you look at the bottom left, you'll see the virtual appliance comes from EU, Europe, that CyberPower system. So it takes a while to download. All right, so get going on that download while you're watching this video, say, because it'll take like an hour. Once you get that large file, it looks like this. So I downloaded this, and I rehearsed this once a week ago, and after the holidays now I'm finally prepared to go ahead and from beginning to end configure this virtual appliance from an ESXi host. So we'll get started with extracting the zip file, which really is a virtual machine that's pre-configured. Let me show you what that looks like. This is Windows 8, so you get a little status going there. So once it's done, it's going to open up the new folder it's created, and we should see a VMDK file representing the hard drive, the file system, the pre-configured appliance, CentOS already configured. Go into the folder. We've got a text file we're going to need. It's got key stuff like the username and password to get into this VM if we want it. And it says 20 gig is needed and 2 gig of RAM. I'm finding much less is actually needed than that. Okay, so we've got another zip file inside the zip file, so we've got to extract that one as well. So 2 unzip operations later, and we should now finally see a set of a few files representing the virtual machine. Ta-da! There they are. About 660 gig, excuse me. Meg. So 60, it fits on a CD roughly. Okay, so this is the path of where I'm going to go grabbing and importing an OVF file, open virtualization format package. Okay, I could put that in the clipboard. That might come in handy. All right, so now we're all done there, and we're ready to use the vSphere client to log in to this ESXi host. I just installed ESXi 5.1. You can see that. It's asking me for the certificate. So there's nothing on here. This is a 60-day trial, trying to show you that if you go ahead and download the trial, this is the experience you will get. As far as free or license or enterprise, the same appliance should work for all of them is my understanding. Although I'll admit at the moment I don't have a full understanding of how this appliance is working in any prereqs. There's no documentation on CyberPower's website at this point. So you'll see we're on the evaluation, 60 days remaining, ESXi 5.1. So let's get started. Deploy from VA Marketplace, create new virtual machine. No, actually, we want to go ahead and do File, Deploy OVF Template. And I'm going to go ahead and paste in from my clipboard. Let's do that again. Right-click, paste, and then hit Browse. And it should put me right in the right folder that I want to be on. It did. Excellent. And there's the OVF file. Notice it was looking for anything with OVF extension. Ready to click Next. And there's a little summary of the virtual machine. A little bit of information about it. You'll notice it's saying it's Cyber Power Panel Business Edition 222 V3, a beta. Okay, so that's what we have at this moment in time, which is November 26, 2012. So we can leave that name alone, or we can come up with something better. For the purposes of this, I'm going to go ahead and leave that alone. Try to keep it simple. Now these are my data stores. They were already formatted, so ESXi happily picks up on those data stores and sees them. And in the interest of speeding this video along, I'm going to put this on a SSD that's fast and has a little bit of room on it. I'm going to do thin provisioning. I don't want to waste SSD space unnecessarily. And sure, I can go ahead and power this thing on after deploying. So now we can see with Windows 8 Task Manager, very nice and easy to look at performance of the Ethernet connection there. So as the file's transferred, you're seeing we're getting about 2 megabits. And it's going to take all of about a minute to move a CD's worth of data over to the ESXi host, at which point it's going to go ahead and boot. So let me get ready with that. So as this cruises along here, should be able to open this up. Click here, click console to make sure we're ready and don't miss anything. If we look at the bottom, you'll see deploy OVF template right there, start and stop time. So yeah, obviously that went well. And now we're done. Get rid of Task Manager. We can click Close here, so nothing more to see. The wizard's done, and you'll see CentOS is booting for the first time. Okay, so what have we forgotten? Well, CentOS, if we click Edit Settings, you'll see they put a USB controller in there by default, a USB 2.0 compatible controller. That's great, but we need to attach the USB device to it, which in my case is obvious, Cyber Power System. It's the only device in the list that makes any sense to add. I also have some other home automation devices on there. So Cyber Power is the one we want. We want to attach that to the VM, and we want to click Finish and click OK. Great, what's next? Well, let's go ahead and log in. So we've got our automated shutdown set. We want to log in, and now that USB is seen, after our little reboot, this VM should see Power Panel Business Edition. And actually, we don't need to log in that way. Let me point out that if we look at the Summary tab, Tools is installed, but out of date. So what that means is, if Tools is installed, the clock for the VM can be automatically set. So let's double check that the folks set that up correctly at CyberPower. And if we look at Tools, we'll see no. I'm not sure if that's something they could have done, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on Synchronize Guest Time with Host and click OK. So we've done two things. We've added the USB device, we set Tools up properly, and now we should be able to just click Restart Guest. If we look at the console, we'll see it triggered a restart through the tools. So in this next boot, we should be golden. So if you didn't turn on the VM already, you could go ahead and change those two properties. Set the clock to sync with tools and go ahead and attach the USB virtual cable to the VM, basically assigning it. All right, so the VM is up. Now what do we got? Well, if we go to the Summary tab, we can get the IP address. We need that. Correct. Why do we need the IP? Well, we're going to go ahead and fire up a browser. Let's go ahead and see how this looks on Internet Explorer. We'll start there. 10.10.1.133. Excellent. Notice it redirected me to port 3052. We didn't need to do anything. Admin for username password. That is the default behavior of PowerPanel. We're in. So that was easy, right? There's our host. We're into it. We have PowerPanel working. Close things down we don't really need. Let's open another window. So we got the VM configured. Not much to look at from the console. We can leave Summary View open. Let's also open a copy of Chrome here. A lot more likely you're going to be using that. 10.1.133. So we log in from Chrome. It looks fine there too. Now, if we have a look around here at PowerPanel, obviously the connection is there because we can see stuff. We can see information about my fully charged battery. So these are all good signs. One thing I did notice with this apparently beta software, if we go to the Information tab, we don't quite get the firmware level and other more detailed information I expect with the Windows version. So I don't know what's up with that yet. That's about the only thing missing that I found. Maybe they'll be fixing that soon. I probably want to set a date for when my battery was last replaced, for instance. But let's just move down the list. Click on Configuration. Okay, it looks like it inherited that I had told my battery not to sound an alarm when power is lost. Let's go over to Diagnostics. And it's saying a calibration hasn't been run, battery test hasn't been run. Okay, well, trying to keep it as simple as possible. I may end up having to do one of those for this to succeed or act the right way. Let's go right over to Events. Now you'll notice utility power failure sounds promising. Shutdown initiated. Let's say active. So if power is lost to my house for more than, let's say, 30 seconds, I'm going to want to initiate a shutdown. Now how could it possibly do that? Well, that's coming. Let's just keep moving down the list. Go to Recipient. Okay, this is where you could do, say, email alerts. But we haven't even configured the settings for that, so this is where you kind of need to jump ahead to settings. I don't know why I have it in this order. It seems kind of reversed. That sounds promising, right? So we put in the IP address of the ESXi host, which is right over there. .50, okay? And the full password. Making sure caps lock is correct, clicking apply, it says it's done. Now I don't actually want to turn off my UPS. I have some other devices on there. If the battery runs out, fine, but I'd like to keep them up a little longer, keeping internet going, for instance. So yes, my server is my heavy hitter for power, but in my case, I don't actually want to turn off the battery when I'm done. If you only have your server on there, the ESXi host, you may very well want to have it shut off the UPS when you're done shutting down, because that'll save your UPS as a potential USB charger for your smartphones, for instance, a large battery on it. All right, let's move on. It says necessary shutdown time. I found if I fiddle with that and move it down, this doesn't always work. So again, I admit I've done some rehearsals. Email alerting is also good to do. But again, this video is focused on one thing and one thing only, and that is the very easiest way to walk yourself through a procedure to get automated shutdown of VMs working. So it's done. It's that simple. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a moment to set up a way for you to visualize the shutdown and reboot operation. So I'm setting that up now in a separate window here. And what that's going to do is you'll see the ESXi host actually go down to make more convincing display of this working. All right, so there's our out-of-band way of seeing the actual host. So it's going to be rather obvious to us when ESXi starts to go down. Next thing to do will be to remove power. So let's get that going. Now, a couple things to point out here. We could just leave this ESXi exactly the way it is, and it will shut down. And for this first demo, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So my bias is set to leave the machine off when power is reapplied, I believe. But more important, this demo is really all about the shutdown. As far as power up procedures, I find you're probably going to be home when you're doing that after power is restored to your house. So pushing buttons, covering how you boot VMs and all that, that's kind of out of scope for this video. I'm focused mostly on the graceful shutdown, by far the most important part to preserving your data and the integrity of your data. So what we could do is a nice little ping test. So Windows key and R, type command, ping. Okay, so I'm just going to ping that host. All right, so that's just going to keep pinging and pinging and pinging. Now, if we go here to event logs, we can see what's going on since we've installed this appliance. Not much, other than I'm looking at the clock and it is correct. So that's a good sign that time syncing is working in that VM. So now we're in good shape. Ready to go ahead and kill power, at which point we should see this window go down. This connection to the vSphere client is obviously going to croak because the ESXi host that we're attached to is going to die. And the ping will stop, of course, as the virtual machine starts to go down. Notice this is a live window here. I hit a key and it turns yellow. That's all normal behavior. Okay, it doesn't look like I left the switch to power off remotely near me. So I've got to walk over the server here. And I'm going to go ahead and remove power. I have my alarm silenced, so you won't hear that. But 30 seconds after I remove power, you should see the normal shutdown process begin. Okay, so I'm at the server. I'm hitting the button now. I hear a click on the battery. So we're at 5 seconds now. Going back to my console. Coming up on 30 seconds. Which means we should see something happen soon. Notice shutdown process initiated is showing. Now if we look over here, it's too late, we've already lost console. So something to point out would be, do we have a robust VM? Because we told it to power off, but we didn't tell the ESXi host to gracefully deal with that VM. But the thing is, when you signal ESXi to shut down, it should handle graceful shutdown of VMs as well. Okay, our ping has stopped. And it worked. You can see the console went away. So that's good. Now I've got the remote control in my hand. I can reapply power, which I've now done. And the rest of this video is about doing things a little less hasty and doing them right, meaning let's also set up alerting so I can have, say, my smartphone pop up an alert when power is lost. And let's also set up the method or the type of shutdown we want. Do we want to take down this appliance and gracefully shut it down? And then do we want it to auto start this appliance? And maybe say something like a vCenter appliance when we reboot and reapply power to the server. So plugging in the battery was one step. But I now need to head back to the server and hit the physical power switch. Because again, I set it up, I told the server to shut down, it's just going to sit there until I actually hit the physical power switch. All right, so we had a momentary, few minute power outage, power is restored, and let's say it's after, a storm or something, and now I'm just physically powering up the server, watching its lights, making sure everything turns on normally, the drives spin up, and it's doing its thing. You can see in the console there, we're getting video and watching it boot. So once we get this host back and running, and log into ESXi, and we get this virtual machine running, this appliance we just created, then we're ready to put the icing on the cake and just finish up the kind of best practices config. This part of the video and the practices you'll see me doing will probably change. It seems the folks at CyberPower, this is kind of maybe their 1.0 release. I'm not sure how long this has been there. I actually talked to someone in support. They're going to clean up this documentation and use the word appliance in there somewhere, because really it is an appliance, and that's important. When you see CentOS, you're kind of maybe scared off if you're a Windows user, but now you're realizing that there's basically no configuration needed other than the clock sync and attaching USB cable. You did not need to learn Linux to do this, obviously. All right, so ESXi is coming up. Now, if we try to refresh when the VM's not there, I'm just curious how the web interface will act. Okay, ESXi's are now responding to ping. The web UI just kind of sits there. It's probably going to time out. Probably way too early to log in yet because this thing's not even booted fully. Okay, and there we have it. We're up. We should be able to log into the ESXi host. We're back in action. So this VM is just sitting there, right? How do we get it so it auto starts after power is lost? It's not hard. Just go to ESXi, click on there, click on configuration, click on virtual machine startup and shutdown, click on properties, and say allow virtual machines to start and stop. I don't have any huge SQL server, any big databases or anything like that. I like to put for each virtual machine, delay startup for 30 seconds and continue a VMware Tools is there. For shutdown, also 30-second delay, and the shutdown action is guest shutdown. This is very important. I don't want to do a hard power off, which could kill some VMs. Now this CentOS, I believe, is pretty robust. So the last shutdown we did, it might have been a little nasty. This time we're going to do it the right way. We want to guest shutdown. Okay, so that's our default actions, but we also need to click here and say move up and say automatic for the CentOS and click OK. There you go. So we've changed the behavior now. Let's go back into properties, make sure everything's stock 3030, guest shutdown's default, and automatic startup for the VM we care about. Now as a VM, another VM that most home users or home or lab users probably care about quite a bit as well, and that's called vCenter, right? Because you want to be able to get in and admin your infrastructure. So what we could do is poke around storage here and add vCenter to my ESXi host because I already installed it. And we can also auto start that. So that means on ESXi, we head on back over to startup and shutdown, go back to properties, and move vCenter also to go ahead and start and stop with our ESXi host. Great. So we're finished with the vSphere side of things. Now over here, let's go back and see if how it acts for logging in again. It's not acting terribly happy because, silly me, still haven't powered that thing up. This thing powers up really fast. So in a whopping 15 seconds, it's ready. It's got an IP address, and its resource allocation is minimal. It's only using 181. It doesn't really need 2 gig, so I could crank that down quite a bit. Obviously, CPU, it's doing nothing either. Tools hasn't quite finished coming up yet, so let's just try this. See if it comes up here. Yep, we're in. And tools came up. You can see on the right, 133 is the IP. So we're good. We're back in action. And I had said I have more configuration I wanted to show you. So let me go ahead and reduce clutter a little here. And go ahead and take care of the rest of that configuration I mentioned. Okay, if we go to Event Action Settings, we can set an SMTP host. Okay. We can click Verify. It sends an email. And now I'm looking at my inbox on my smartphone to see if I got a message. And I did. So next, we go to Recipient. Now that we've configured email, we can do things like do push mails a way to instantly pop up a message on my phone. In my case, it happens to be an iPhone 5. Of course, you can set this up with any phone. This kind of scheme. Email, alerts, doesn't matter. Okay, you just heard my phone make a chime. It instantly popped up. Looking at the message, it's formatted great. Everything's working just fine. It tells me the UPS and Zilla is a subject line. This is a subject line. This is a Power Panel Business Edition test mail from UPS and Zilla. All right, let's do another test. Nice, about a 4-second delay. So everything's working. We've got alerting working great, and we've got a utility power failure, telling my ESXi host to go ahead and shut down if power is lost for more than 30 seconds. Is there anything else we need to do? It's complicated. There's a whole lot of settings here, including how do you want to handle if your battery's partially charged and so forth. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this for now and bring up event logs again and do that same little test we did earlier. So let's get ping going again, or showing again. We've got events showing. If we hit refresh, it quickly refreshes, very quickly. Bring up the vSphere client. Maybe this time we should show the console of PPBE. See how that behaves when power is lost. At the bottom here, we can watch and see shutdown event initiated. So this should be a good show. So now this will be a better representation of how you really want to configure things. And then finally, let's let the actual console peek through in the background here. Bring this up above it. It's covering a little too much. All right, this should be enough. Okay, here we go. I've got my remote control for power. I'm going to kill power. You should hear my phone chirp when I do that. 3, 2, 1, now. Killed power. Did not hear the phone chirp. Let's hit refresh here. Power lost. Okay, so all that means is I didn't set up an alert to myself when power is lost. So I've applied power again and hitting refresh again. And there's about a 5-second delay. And we got power back. All right, so what I should have done is here we've got utility power failure, instant notification. So if I only lose power maybe less than 5 seconds in my house, I don't really need to know about it. That actually happens fairly often during a storm or whatever. So if more than 5 seconds goes by, I'll go ahead and get an alert. There's no commands or other scripts, and we know shutdown's already working, 30 seconds. But we want to be notified of a utility power event. Fine. The recipient is here, and I forgot to add it. So I did a test, but I never actually clicked add. Okay, so now we get a row showing here, a recipient who's going to get emailed when things happen. Click apply. Now we should be in better shape. Just do another test. My test beep, my phone beeps. Now we're ready. Very easy to forget something, and obviously you just saw me mess up a little bit. Okay, time to try again. Okay, 3, 4, sorry, and I'm hitting power now. Utility power failure showed. Phone beeped after a little delay. And another 20 seconds or so, we should see shutdown event triggered, which should in turn begin to shut down this VM properly. Nice. Another alert on my phone saying shutdown initiated. So we have one alert for power out, another one that shutdown's initiated. ESXi is going to go down now. So this console is not too exciting to look at. Let's bring this one up. That should go down next. And once that's down, pinging is going to stop responding. Naturally, with the VM now down, my phone's not going to say anything anymore. I'm not going to get any more alerts. But I like the fact that it really wasn't that hard. No scripting required, no coding, no command line stuff. Really, I deployed a VM and I made it so my smartphone alerts me when the power goes out for more than 5 seconds. And then it alerts me again if it made it all the way to 30 seconds where ESXi was shut down as well, and all the VMs under it. ESXi is now down and not responding to ping. So now I reapply power. So my battery is back up. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn on the power switch on ESXi host again. And I want you to witness that the VMs do auto start with the host, with the settings I showed you how to configure earlier. Okay, server's off. Turn it back on. Looking at the battery, I can see it has power. Now we just wait for ESXi to come back up, along with the VMs, the 2 virtual machines we told it to auto start. Just leave the recording going. Now that I'm back at the console, let's make sure we've got video. Yes, we do. Okay, that's slowly coming up. Now the vSphere client is complaining here. If I click here, it's whining that it's been disconnected, of course. Makes sense since we shut it down. So here comes ESXi. During this boot up here, I should remind you best to test this with nothing else plugged in to your battery, so you're not messing up anyone else in your house if you make a little slip up, like tell it to shut off the battery after shutting down the ESXi host. That could really annoy other folks plugged into that battery, for instance. All things to think about. And also, shutting down gracefully works great if VMware Tools is installed in a VM. So let's say I'm in the middle of booting a VM and I lose power again, and ESXi tells all the VMs to shut down. Well, I haven't fully tested that behavior. But if Tools is not installed, it has no way to signal to the VM to shut down. So you could still end up with potentially corruption of a database or something. So all things to think about. Not that you hopefully have too many power outages, but when you're in a steady state and all your VMs are running and they have VMware Tools, you should be in good shape with this sort of setup. Okay, we're back in. We're back up. I should be able to log in with the vSphere client. There we go. And I should be able to show it. There we go. Nice. You can see the console's coming up for one of the VMs. And soon the console for the other VM should start up as well. And it is, 30 seconds later. Nice. So maybe 30 seconds apart is kind of short because now we got 2 VMs starting at once, but it's a light workload, not a big deal. Okay, CentOS is now back. We know what that means. Should be able to get back in over here. May have jumped the gun a little there. It had just finished booting. Let's try clicking on another page. There we go. We're in. Interesting, it didn't even challenge me for password. I should point out that you can obviously set the username password stronger here, and HTTPS really should be turned to sensitive, and especially if you're going to go over a WAN of any kind to authenticate. So your username password is not clear text in any way. So right now you'll see this is not HTTP, not HTTPS. So by default, it's pretty light. If you're on a local network, not a big deal. If you want something a little stronger, yeah, go ahead and change your network login. You've pretty much seen all the tabs here now in CyberPower Power Panel Business Edition. It's a mouthful. Things like event recording and event logs. I like to crank those up because I don't really want the logs to roll. Scheduled shutdown, probably not too many folks using that. So yeah, you've seen now every tab of this basic UI. vCenter's up, so everything's done. I'm convinced we're in good shape now and that everything is working well. It's a nice feeling of peace of mind that now when I put a lot of effort into a VM, that I can be pretty confident that it's going to be gracefully shut down. So if I have a copy of Windows with a database, you know, I now am comfortable that when power is lost to my house, it's going to get signal to do a graceful shutdown without any effort inside the VM, other than having VMware tools installed, so that the ESXi host can talk to the VM enough to tell it to shut down. So I like that simplicity. No configuration for all my VMs themselves. I do still need to tell the ESXi host configuration what virtual machines to start up automatically at boot. And then for shutdown, I also need to say, again, the shutdown action. So notice it says virtual machines to start and stop automatically. So when you specify a machine to start, you've automatically handled that it's also going to be handled smoothly on shutdown. So that's the end of what I wanted to show in this video. And hopefully you found it helpful, and I thank you for watching. As always, your comments and feedback are greatly appreciated.